Hi, I'm Maddie, and I struggled with depression.
Hey guys, it's Chip, and I've dealt with anxiety.
Hi, I'm Haley and I struggle with depression.
Hey guys, I'm Katie Powell. Towards the end of my junior year, I struggled with depression.
The deepest depression that I ever fell in was my sophomore year of high school. The Lord was taking away friendships and people and sports from me, and I really felt like my world was crumbling.
So this last summer, I dealt with anxiety and stress a lot in my life. Had some big life decisions ahead of me, and while these decisions weren't big in and of itself, it brought up some scar tissue I hadn't yet dealt with in my life.
Most of my life, I've really never had a battle with depression until my senior year in high school. There is something that kind of triggered all these feelings that I had shoved deep down inside, and then just got risen to the surface, and basically everything kind of came crashing down. Nothing was going right. I felt like the world around me was falling apart. I felt like I was drowning and there was no way out.
Went through a really dark time in my life. I had gone through kind of a partying stage, and through that met some not very nice people, and was actually sexually assaulted and raped in a parking lot by a guy that I met at a party.
I stopped reading scripture, I stopped feeding myself truth, and so I was just kind of dwelling in darkness. And I firmly believe that the devil thrives in darkness, and so I was really just sitting there letting him win.
I was asking friends and mentors for advice, when really the only advice I wanted was from my dad, who had passed away when I was younger. So the situation made me real frustrated with myself. It made me frustrated with God. And while these deadlines approached, I was losing sleep and losing appetite and really just beating myself up over it. And the worst part was I would come into work and preach the gospel and encourage others, and then leave and just feel emptier and more beaten up over the situation.
I put on a mask so that I didn't let anybody see what was really going on the inside. So on the outside, I looked completely okay, but on the inside, I was a mess. I did a pretty good job of it though, because not a lot of people know that I went through this, but that can only go on for so long. It made everything 10 times worse trying to cover it up and not allowing myself to feel those emotions that I needed to. And I told myself, you cannot cry. That's pathetic. That's weak. I can't be upset. You're this happy person. You're not upset. But I was so wrong. Eventually, the turmoil going on the inside completely outweighed my mask, and everything began to show.
And after that, I just really began to question a lot of things in my life. Before, I had never really had a relationship with God, but after that happened, I felt like God was punishing me, and that there is no way that there is a God out there that loved me, and that would allow something like that to happen to me.
It wasn't until I finally was able to speak up to my mom and tell her that these emotions that I was feeling were overwhelmingly heavy. I couldn't bear them anymore on my own. I got to a point where all I could say was, I don't want to be here anymore. This is too real. This is too painful. I just don't want to be here anymore.
I let these things called depression control my life and rule over everything, even to the point where my relationship with God really became distant. I'd absolutely no clue who I was anymore. I completely lost my identity. I ended up going to see a psychologist, and that was honestly the first time where I really came to terms with the fact of, okay, I do have depression and I need to do something about it.
But through developing a relationship with Bob and meeting some people in the youth group and being directed towards a counselor who is able to help me sort through my emotions and tell me that the things that I was feeling were not abnormal to the situation, through that I was able to heal, and I was able to learn God's character, and I've continued to learn his character.
And she encouraged me to speak to Cindy Janeka, and Cindy was able to speak truth over me, and help me really believe that the Lord was on my side and that he loved me, and the things he was taking away from me were for my good.
And I also spoke to Trisha Patterson and Cindy Janeka, and honestly, they were the most helpful people that were constantly there for me with the best advice, hugs anytime I needed it. They were always checking up on me, and getting help is literally the best decision you could ever make. I also realized through that too how much I needed God.
I think the first big thing we have to do is just talk about it. Talking about it doesn't make it go away, but it makes it easier for us to understand. It makes it easier for us to manage.
He's a God who's loving, and he pursues us, and he does protect us, regardless of our circumstance and in every situation, even though we might not always know what that looks like. or what's best.
And so the one thing that I would say to you to encourage you or to help someone out is that we need to let light into these situations, because when light encounters darkness, darkness can't win. And so when we invite God into these situations, then we can't lose.
And the second big way we have to move forward with these situations is we got to turn to Scripture. We look forward to the promises God has given us, but we also look back at the ways He's already provided for us in our own life.
I just want to encourage you guys that even though a situation is tough and it looks like God's not in it, that He's with you and He's for you, and He's walking with you, holding your hand the entire time.
And I also began to read Scripture again and really to make my relationship with God a priority in my life. And that's when I saw things take a turn for the better. I felt like I could finally breathe again. I was weak, but God was really where I found my strength.
You look at Exodus, where He's provided for people in tough times, where they didn't have food and water and doubted Him. But then you also look forward to His promises. You look forward to Psalm 23, where He says, in the middle of your dark times, He's going to prepare a table for you that you can meet with Him.
Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand." If you ever feel depressed, know you are not alone. So many people go through this, and God is always there for you. Also, do not be afraid to feel emotion. You don't have to put on a mask and act okay. It's okay to not be okay. Really just give your control to God. You can't go through this alone. So